All right, what's going on, Patriots fans? This is Jason Cole from the Patriots Drive podcast today. And no, it's April 2nd. It's not April Fool's Day. And yes, it is true. DeVante Parker is coming to the Patriots from the Dolphins. As you can see on screen, New England gets wide receiver DeVante Parker and a fifth-round pick in exchange for a third-round pick. But Cole, kind of talk through the contract and maybe your initial reactions and what we got back for him and what we gave up.
Yeah, so we get DeVante Parker. He's got 2 years left on his deal. His cap hits around $5-6 million each year for those 2 years. So great value for a guy who's still young. He's had his injury problems. 2019, he had a fantastic year. I like it. It's a big body X. He's 6'3", X receiver, typical guy that the Patriots were looking for to fill that void. I think they found it here. 4.45 speed, I believe, at the NFL Combine when he ran there. So he's not a burner, but for 6'3", 4.45 is plenty good enough, and he's a great contested catch receiver. I like the move. We get Parker and a fifth-round pick this year, and then we're giving away a third-round pick next season. So we're also probably going to get a third-round comp pick for J.C. Jackson back for next year. So we should still have a third-round pick next year. So I like the move. It's a good move. We got a wide receiver who's still young, talented. It's not, Allen Robinson, any of those big names that we wanted, but you're getting a guy who's still really talented for a much cheaper price. So I was a fan of the move.
Yeah, I loved it too. Looking back, I know there's going to be injury concerns, a lot of hamstring issues the last 2 years. He's missed about 7 games total. But in 2019, fourth most reception yards in the NFL at 1,200 yards. He also had one of the most receiving targets at 14 receptions down the field when he was playing in 19. And he also led the league, or was second in the league in receiving touchdowns of 20 plus or more yards at 5, only behind Stephon Diggs, Kenny Galladay, Tyler Lockett, guys like that. So he's a very good down the field threat. Like you said, big receiver, good speed that can press vertical, that I think gives Mac Jones a lot more options. The thing that kind of gets into my brain is, do they cut, or well, not cut, do they trade Aguilar for a late round pick? Is he the Aguilar replacement? Does that help save money? What do they go in the draft now from here too? Gaining an extra fifth-round pick. It might be more likely now that there's not a first-round receiver taken, which I don't know if any Patriots fans should have been thinking that was realistic just off of the draft history and the other needs. But I think that now gaining an extra day 3 pick, early day 3 pick, it's at a 158, I believe it is. And now we've gained 2 fifth-round picks in trades that we've made this year. I think maybe now you're looking at guys like Christian Watson, Sky Moore, John Mechie, Calvin Austin that might be their late second, early third that could come on this team and, make an impact also at the receiver position later in the draft.
Yeah, the Aguilar thing is interesting to me. You're paying him a lot of money. If you can trade him and get value back, that's good. But also, if you trade Aguilar and DeVante Parker gets hurt, which he's, like we said, he's had his injury issues. He's been up and down with that. Then your receiving core is N'Keal Harry, if you even keep him, which I think he's probably more likely to get traded than Aguilar right now. But the cap thing's real, and getting $5 million, $6 million on the books now. They didn't have a ton of cap space before. They're going to have to create cap somehow. So Aguilar is still a realistic option. But say you trade Aguilar and Parker gets hurt. You have N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne as your top 3 guys. And then maybe you call somebody up from the practice squad. That's not great. That's really scary sounding. So especially if the Patriots are looking to get rid of the fullback role and go more spread style offense, I think if you have a guy who's speedy on one side, a big body receiver on the other, and then you got a couple guys who can play in the slot, the Z or the slot, and then a tight end, I think that's going to be a good combination. So you pair that with the run game, I like it. I think that could be a good option. So I'm a fan of keeping Aguilar. If they think he can make a year 2 jump in this system, keep him. Hopefully Jonnu has a good season and gets more comfortable throughout this offseason with the Patriots system and the quarterback and everything there. I think it could be a much improved offense, even though it wasn't that bad last year. If the offensive line holds up and we keep Aguilar and DeVante Parker and then let Aguilar's contract go off the books next year and get somebody else who isn't that much money, I think it could work out well. So I like the move. Obviously, we heard some Odell Beckham rumors yesterday, but that we hear that every year, and he never comes here. So I think this kind of washes that down the drain, unless the Patriots really are looking to get 2 receivers, which I was surprised they ended up even getting 1.
Yeah, and you look at this trade, in my opinion, and this is this is what I've said, you've said. This is the Bill Belichick money trade right here, right? He's patient in free agency. He doesn't make a big splash like a lot of Patriots fans would want him to see, signing Odell Beckham Jr., Allen Robinson. I think this is great value for a guy that's probably lost some value. If you would have traded for him in 2019, I don't know what his asking price would have been, coming off of a career year, 1,200 receiving yards, fourth in the NFL right there. But now, Miami, I was a little surprised they trade him interconference, honestly. Yeah. They get Tyreek Hill. They have Jalen Waddle, obviously, but they get a third-round pick next year. I love the move by New England. This isn't the splash at the receiver position, but I think this is a very underrated pick. Like you said, if the Jakob Johnson comments are true and they're looking to go away from a fullback, I feel very comfortable with the top 4 receivers. And you're talking DeVante Parker right here, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, and Jacoby Myers, and then throw in Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith and say you go 12. I think the top 4 receivers are very good. Now, the reason I throw in the Aguilar thing in there, obviously you said it, we got to create cap space. I still think there's holes that can be filled on this team. And if they do hope to go a receiver in rounds 2 or 3, then that's a way to bolster up that position with Aguilar gone. And still find ways to improve the roster elsewhere. So I think that this is one of my favorite trades that New England's made in the past, couple years. I think that this is good value. If you're talking, we're giving up a 5th and a 3rd, it gets a little different. Like when I first read the trade, I texted you and I said, oh my gosh, we pretty much just traded the Shaq Mason pick for DeVante Parker. And you said, no, we got the 5th round pick. Yeah. And then we gave him a 3rd. I think it's tremendous value. Now New England has 8 picks in this draft. I think a trade back's still likely to get more positions, but Robert Kraft said it. The way you build for sustained success is through the draft, and New England's slowly gaining more and more picks that can contribute, and we'll see how they use them. But I was a big fan of this move.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys watched our live mock draft yet, but we did a 7-round Patriots mock draft. This 5th-round pick can just be more ammunition to trade up for one of those corners if they're falling, like we talked about. So I like it. I think getting a 5th-round pick back is good value. I think it's a good trade for both sides. Miami gets some money off the books. They needed to. They just signed Tyreek Hill for $30 million a year. They just extended Xavier Howard for $25 million a year. I mean, they're opening up the pocketbook a lot for these guys right now. So they need to clear some money. Plus, they already signed Cedric. Was it Cedric Wilson?
Yes.
And so that now they have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Cedric Wilson. So that's a good receiving core right there. That's a really, really good receiving core. So you don't necessarily need a guy like DeVante Parker. DeVante Parker has had a lot of success against the Patriots. He had 3 100-yard games. That included an 8-catch, 137-yard performance in 2019. Last year, he had 81 yards in week 1. In 12 games, Parker had 42 catches for 600 yards against Belichick's defense. Also, another aspect of this that's great, one of the biggest struggles for the Patriots this year was red zone offense. Hunter Henry or bust. That's pretty much it. Hunter Henry or hand it off to Damian Harris. Now you have another tall, big X receiver who can be a red zone threat. And I think that's going to add to this offense. It's going to add another dimension. It's going to make things a lot easier. It's going to free up some space for Hunter Henry, for DeVante Parker, for Jacoby Myers, for Kendrick Bourne, whoever. He's going to draw eyes. And like we saw in that playoff game, Nelson Aguilar dropping that ball in the end zone. That's the type of catch that DeVante Parker is a specialist at, that jump ball contested catch. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's a great add to this offense. I think it's good value, especially because we're getting a 3rd-round comp pick back next year. So we still should have our full draft arsenal next season. And adding a guy like this, good value for 2 years, I think it's great.
Yeah, and you said it, contested catches. In 2020, DeVante Parker was the top leader in contested catches at 19. And you talk about that. A big X receiver. I think that maybe they wanted that in Nelson Aguilar, or not Nelson Aguilar, sorry, N'Keal Harry when they drafted him. Doesn't pan out. This is a guy with proven success in the NFL. And you said he's torched the Patriots. I remember in 2019, he was, having his way with Stephon Gilmore. And that was Stephon Gilmore's prime right there. And he's been a big time thorn in the Patriots side when he's been healthy. That's the thing is if he's healthy, I think that you can definitely see a very solid wide receiver 1 year out of DeVante Parker. And I think that this is something that New England looks at, and it seems like DeVante Parker's excited to be here. His agent tweeted out he's thankful for Belichick and Kraft for making this happen. Sounds like he's excited. I think that him, Bourne, Jacoby Myers, if Aguilar can get going, I think this is going to be a fun receiving core this year. It's not looking like the New England as we've known with a lot of slot guys and really no outside threats. DeVante Parker with that 4.5 speed can be a true deep threat and a guy that makes big time plays, 20+ yard catches, contested catches in the red zone, and make New England be able to spread the field out and Mac Jones show his arm talent and be able to, feed him the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, this is certainly the best X wide receiver threat since Brandon Cooks. That's he's not the $20 million, $25 million receiver that we were hoping the Patriots would target at some point, or 15 in that range, whatever. But this is, like you said earlier, a Bill Belichick value pick. He finds a guy who needs a change of scenery, gets him for a pretty solid value, and bring him here. There you go. You're not paying a guy $15 million. You're not paying Allen Robinson 15, 16 to play the X spot. You're paying DeVante Parker, who, if he can stay healthy, has a lot of potential and a lot of upside. He's not Allen Robinson, I'm not saying that, but he's a really talented receiver when he's healthy. So I like the move. I think it's good. We certainly need to add a wide receiver, and he fits the mold of what they were looking for. Big body, X contested catch receiver, red zone threat, guy who still can move enough to create some separation. He's not N'Keal Harry. He doesn't have weights tied to his ankles. So I'm a big fan of the move, especially Miami locking up Xavier Howard for another extension there. Secondary is great. Buffalo, they're getting Tre'Davious White back from an ACL injury. The division's tough. The AFC is really tough. We needed to add some more firepower offensively. We've all been talking about it for years. We need to add a wide receiver one. Is he a top tier wide receiver one? No. But is he a guy who can fill that role and provides good value? And maybe we can add some more pieces to the team around, at a corner, whatever we need to do. We're going to have money next year, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they use it now if DeVante Parker ends up working out.
For sure. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below your thoughts on the trade, how DeVante Parker will pan out for the Patriots, and what your thoughts were, what you would like to see New England to continue to address in the offseason and the draft. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. Stay up to date with our Instagrams so you know when we're going live. Most live shows are every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. But we appreciate the support, and we'll talk to you later.